don't fear women. They simply refuse to play the social games that others are addicted to. Period. Welcome back, Sigmas. Today, we're cracking the code on a misunderstood trait: why Sigma males shy around women. Let's set the record straight. This shyness isn't about insecurity. It's about observation. While most people rush to impress, a Sigma male steps back to analyze. He's reading body language, testing energy, scanning for authenticity. It's like emotional reconnaissance. In fact, psychologists have coined a term for this type of behavior. That means Sigma males observe social environments carefully before acting. They're not antisocial, they're selectively social. Where an alpha might bulldoze into a conversation and a beta might freeze, a Sigma remains still, silent but aware. This calculated detachment can come off as aloof or shy, but it's actually powerful restraint. This isn't about being cool for the sake of it, it's about maintaining control. In a world that constantly demands attention, a Sigma male's refusal to overshare or overperform becomes magnetic. Women notice. They're intrigued not by what he says, but by what he withholds. And let's not forget, studies in behavioral psychology show that people are drawn to those who are mysterious. The unknown triggers curiosity. Sigmas don't need to boast or peacock. Their silence speaks volumes. So no, Sigma males aren't shy, they're strategic. And when they move with purpose. Stay tuned because this video is going deeper. It's not just about dating, it's about mastering presence, power, and perception. Let's go. Point 1. Observation before engagement. Sigmas are observers, and not in the casual scrolling through their phone kind of way. They're precision-calibrated human scanners. While others dive into conversations head first, like extroverts belting out their emotions at a karaoke party, Sigmas hang back. They watch, they listen, they gather intel. This behavior is often misunderstood. To the untrained eye, a Sigma male might appear shy, reserved, or even aloof. But that's not what's happening. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You see, Sigmas operate on a different wavelength. While many are busy making noise, Sigmas are decoding the silence. They read body language like a book. They analyze tone of voice for hidden intent. They pick up on subtle cues most people never notice, like micro-expressions, energy shifts, or the difference between real laughter and polite chuckles. Psychologists call this awe, and research supports it. According to Dr. Daniel Goleman, author of People Who Have a High Level of Social Awareness Can Sense Others' Emotions, Understand Nonverbal Communication, and even detect deception. That's exactly what a Sigma is doing. His silence is not awkward, it's intentional. He's filtering out the noise, he's observing before engaging. Why? Because time is currency. And Sigmas don't invest in people who are fake, shallow, or trying too hard to impress. To the average person, this looks like social anxiety or timidity. But in truth, it's strategic. Sigmas know that jumping into meaningless small talk is a waste of energy. They'd rather find the behind your words before they even respond. Think of a Sigma like a lone wolf scout. He doesn't howl for attention. He waits in the shadows, watches the herd, and only moves when the moment is right. His silence? That's data collection. So next time you see a Sigma male off in the corner not saying much, don't assume he's lost in his thoughts. He's probably already figured out who's genuine, who's pretending, and who's not worth his time. He's not being shy. He's just strategizing. Because in the Sigma world, observation isn't weakness, it's weaponry. Point 2, no interest in chasing, let's be honest, and not in some cheesy pickup artist way either. We're talking about silent, unshakable energy that commands attention without demanding it. While the average guy might flood a woman's inbox with emojis and sweet talk, a Sigma male's energy says, "You want me? Earn me." This isn't arrogance, it's psychology. Women are biologically wired to be attracted to confidence, independence, and mystery. Sigma males check all 3 boxes without saying a word. Their quiet presence alone can cause a ripple effect. That's because in a world saturated with noise, someone who doesn't beg for attention, the attention. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because Sigmas don't validate women the way most men do, it can make women feel uncertain, sometimes even insecure. Most women are used to being praised, pursued, and pedestalized. Compliments, flirty messages, constant check-in, and it's almost like background music in the dating world. But a Sigma, he doesn't play by those rules. He's too busy living with purpose. He might appreciate a woman's beauty, but he doesn't lose himself in it. He's not out here showering every woman with attention like it's some social obligation. That shift in dynamic, where a woman isn't immediately praised or pursued, can be confusing. And let's be real, confusion breeds curiosity. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the idea that unpredictable attention increases desire. When someone can't predict how you'll respond, they become more invested. That's exactly what happens when women encounter a Sigma male. His aloofness isn't a lack of interest, it's a test of hers. In fact, this subtle power dynamic has deep roots in evolutionary psychology. Women, consciously or not, often seek out partners who demonstrate higher mate value. A man who is selective with his attention signals value. He's not desperate, he's deliberate. So when a Sigma walks into the room, he doesn't need cheesy lines or constant praise to get noticed. His silence speaks volumes. His self-possession is magnetic. And his refusal to play the game, that's what makes him the prize. Because at the end of the day, Sigma males don't chase validation. They live in a way that draws it in effortlessly. Point 3, authenticity over approval. Sigmas value realness over performance, period. In a world obsessed with showing off, gaining attention, and curating the perfect image, Sigma males are wired differently. They're not out here trying to impress anyone, not women, not society, not even other men. That's why they often come across as reserved, distant, or even hard to read. But make no mistake, this isn't about insecurity or social awkwardness. It's about being authentic. You see, the average guy might feel the need to turn on the charm, inflate his stories, or compete for attention in a room. Not the Sigma. He walks in, reads the energy, and doesn't say a word unless there's something worth saying. He knows that silence can be more powerful than a speech. And here's where it gets interesting. Women often interpret this calm detachment as shyness. But it's not. It's raw, unapologetic authenticity. A Sigma male isn't trying to be liked. He's just being. And that's powerful. Why? Because according to social psychology, authenticity builds trust and attraction more than scripted charm ever could. In fact, studies show that people who display are perceived as more trustworthy and confident. That's exactly what Sigma males embody. They don't chase approval, and that unbothered vibe makes them stand out in a world full of people trying too hard. Think of it this way. A Sigma is like the uncut diamond, rare, unpolished, but undeniably valuable. His confidence doesn't scream, it whispers. It's not about making a scene, it's about mastering his scene. So when a woman mistakes his authenticity for being shy, it's often because she's used to men performing. She expects the usual games, the flirty banter, the peacocking. But the Sigma gives her something unexpected, truth. And that truth can be disarming. He doesn't smile because he smiles when he it. He doesn't talk just to fill the silence. He lets the silence speak. This is the Sigma way, stoic, grounded, and always authentic. So if you're watching this and wondering why Sigma males act the way they do, know this, it's not about being shy. It's about being real in a world addicted to fake. Point 4, they fear wasting energy. Conversations take energy, and for Sigma males, that energy is sacred. Unlike extroverts who thrive on constant interaction or alpha males who dominate conversations for status, Sigmas operate on a more selective frequency. Every word, every glance, every gesture, it all costs mental bandwidth. That's why small talk feels like torture to them. Discussing the weather, painful. Shallow gossip, forget it. For Sigmas, conversations need purpose. If the dialogue doesn't engage their mind or spirit, it's not worth their time. This energy conservation isn't a flaw, it's a feature. Sigmas are what psychologists might call high reactive introverts. Their brains are more sensitive to external stimuli, meaning they can become mentally drained faster than others in high social environments. But this also makes them more introspective, observant and precise in their communication. They're not antisocial, they're selectively social. Now let's talk about flirting. For most people, flirting is playful, fun, and light. For a Sigma male, it's a chess match. It must be mentally stimulating. A woman throwing out tired pickup lines or leaning on surface-level charm won't even make a dent. But someone who challenges his mind, drops an unexpected philosophical question, shares a clever insight, or engages in deep intellectual banter, now you have his attention. Sigmas are energy misers, but not in a stingy way. They're strategic. They invest where they see long-term value. Whether it's business, friendship, or romance, they're looking for depth, substance, and alignment. This is why they often seem uninterested or aloof. It's not rudeness, it's discernment. Unless a woman radiates authenticity and depth, a Sigma is more likely to respond with a quiet nod, a knowing smirk, and walk away. No drama, no games, just quiet self-respect. This behavior often mystifies others, but that's part of the Sigma's enigma. He doesn't chase attention or approval. He values meaningful connection over casual conversation, presence over performance, quality over quantity. And that's why Sigmas don't just talk, they communicate with purpose. Point 5, they're deep thinkers, not smooth talkers. Sigmas live in their heads. They're not just wandering through life reacting to everything like most people, they're observing, analyzing, and reflecting. Think of them as modern-day philosophers in hoodies. While others are out chasing attention or social validation, Sigma males are sitting back, sipping coffee, and mentally dissecting the human condition. This mental depth isn't just quirky, it's powerful. Studies in psychology show that introspective individuals often score high in traits like openness to experience and analytical thinking. They're drawn to abstract ideas, existential questions, and deep self-awareness. That's the Sigma mindset in a nutshell. They're not thinking about what outfit will impress someone at a party. They're thinking about the meaning of free will or how time might just be a human illusion. This constant internal dialogue can make them appear aloof, even emotionally unavailable. But here's where it gets interesting. People are magnetically drawn to mystery. And Sigma males, intentionally or not, embody that mystery. You can't read them easily. You don't know what they're really thinking. And that unpredictability, it sparks curiosity. It's the same reason we're drawn to characters like Sherlock Holmes, John Wick, or even Batman. They're not oversharers, they're enigmatic. And in that silence, people project their own fascinations. Neurologically speaking, humans are wired to solve puzzles. So when someone doesn't give you all the pieces, like a Sigma male, you're compelled to dig deeper. That's the real secret. Sigmas don't chase attention, but they get it anyway because mystery is irresistible. And it's not just about being quiet. It's the calm, controlled demeanor, the ability to detach from drama, the way they value logic over impulse. In a world that moves at breakneck speed and rewards noise, a man who moves quietly but thinks deeply stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. So next time you see that guy sitting alone, headphones in, eyes slightly distant, don't assume he's shy. He's probably just wrestling with an idea that could change his life, or yours. Sigmas don't live on the surface, they live in the depths. And in those depths, they become unforgettable. Point 6, they know their presence speaks louder. While others rely on flashy talk or loud bravado, Sigma males operate on a completely different wavelength. They don't need to be the loudest voice in the room because their presence alone does the talking. Walk into a room with a Sigma and you'll notice the shift. People become curious, intrigued, and sometimes even a little intimidated. That's not by accident, it's by design. You see, Sigmas have mastered what psychologists call non-verbal dominance. Studies in body language show that people who maintain calm eye contact, minimal yet purposeful movement, and confident posture are often perceived as more powerful, even when they say nothing. And that's the Sigma specialty. While the Alpha is busy trying to impress everyone with his resume, the Sigma just sips his drink, quietly observing, calculating, and listening. That mystery, it's magnetic, especially to women. Why? Because human attraction is deeply rooted in curiosity. The Zeigarnik effect, a psychological phenomenon, explains that people remember incomplete stories better than completed ones. In other words, when a man doesn't spill all the details about himself, people, especially women, feel compelled to complete the story. Sigmas leverage this naturally. They don't overshare, they don't need validation. And that's exactly what makes them so irresistible. They drop breadcrumbs, not a buffet. And when they speak, their words carry weight. It's not that Sigmas are shy, it's that they choose silence strategically. Silence is power when used right. In fact, military interrogation experts note that those who talk the least often hold the most power in the room. Sigmas embody this truth in every social setting. Here's the kicker. This isn't an act. Sigma males don't do this for show. It's who they are. They value autonomy, inner peace, and authenticity. So while others are chasing attention, Sigmas are busy building their minds, pursuing passions, or simply enjoying the moment without needing the spotlight. The result? People can't help but notice. Women especially are drawn to the mystery, the depth, the quiet confidence. They wonder, who that guy? What's his story? And that's the Sigma magic. No showboating, no gimmicks, just raw presence, quiet control, and an energy that can't be faked. Now that is how you leave a lasting impression without saying a word. Point 7. Independence is their language. A Sigma doesn't need a woman to complete him. That's not arrogance, that's clarity. In a world that constantly pushes the narrative that you're incomplete without a partner, the Sigma male stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. His mindset isn't anti-love, anti-woman, or anti-connection. In fact, he's open to relationships, but only the kind that add value, not the kind that define his worth. This attitude is often misunderstood. Society is used to seeing men chase validation through romantic attention. We've all seen the tropes: the man who feels whole only after winning over the woman, or the guy who spirals when a relationship ends. But the Sigma male breaks that mold entirely. His identity is not anchored in who loves him, but in who he when he's alone. That level of emotional independence is powerful. Psychologically, this ties into the concept of a term coined by family therapist Dr. Murray Bowen. It refers to a person's ability to maintain their sense of self, even in close relationships. Sigmas are masters of this. They can love deeply without losing themselves. They can commit without becoming codependent. Because they don't seek constant approval, they often appear distant or shy. But here's the truth: it's not shyness. It's intentional space, it's observation, it's quiet strength. While others are busy trying to impress, the Sigma is scanning the environment, choosing whether wants to engage. This is where the confusion happens. To the untrained eye, his vibe may look like aloofness or social awkwardness, but in reality, it's a quiet confidence that doesn't scream for attention. There's a reason why women are often intrigued by this kind of man. It's not because he's playing games, it's because he's authentic, not chasing, not manipulating, just existing powerfully within his own frame. In psychological terms, he has what's called the belief that he controls his own destiny, not external forces or people. A Sigma male doesn't shut the door on love, but he doesn't need love to feel whole. He welcomes it when it's real, mutual, and empowering, not when it's based on filling emotional voids. So next time you see a man who isn't chasing, who isn't over-explaining, and who seems content in his solitude, understand this: he's not missing anything. He's already complete. And that in itself is rare and magnetic. Point 8, social anxiety? Social precision. It's not about fear of people, it's about filtering them. You see, Sigma males aren't socially anxious, they're socially selective. There's a big difference. While the world might mistake their quiet demeanor for shyness or introversion, what's really going on is something far more intentional: filtering. Sigmas don't walk into a room looking to impress everyone. They walk in observing, evaluating, measuring the energy of the space. They're asking themselves, who here actually deserves my attention? Because for Sigmas, attention is currency, and they don't spend it on just anyone. Psychologists refer to this trait as a preference for meaningful interaction over meaningless chatter. According to studies, people with this trait are not antisocial. In fact, they often score high in emotional intelligence. They simply prefer quality over quantity when it comes to human connection. Crowds don't intimidate Sigmas. They just don't excite them. They're not there to be seen. They're there to see who's worth seeing. This is where the myth of shyness gets shattered. True shyness is rooted in fear of judgment or rejection. But Sigma behavior isn't driven by fear, it's driven by discernment. They're like human BS detectors, tuned into authenticity and instantly repelled by superficiality. In a world obsessed with networking and being liked, the Sigma flips the script. They don't chase attention, they filter noise. They don't need constant validation, they need meaningful connection. And if they don't find it, they're perfectly fine walking away in silence. So the next time a Sigma male seems distant, know this: it's not that they're hiding, they're filtering. And if you pass that filter, congratulations. You've just been seen by someone who sees through everything. Sigmas, don't let society fool you into thinking being reserved is a flaw. In a culture obsessed with constant chatter, your silence signals strength. Psychologists have found that those who speak less often process thoughts more deeply, so your quiet isn't awkward, it's powerful. While the world clings to superficial validation, your authenticity sets you apart. And when others chase shallow attention, you wait for something real. That's not shyness. That's emotional intelligence. That's Sigma. So next time someone asks, why are you so quiet around women? Just smirk. You're not hiding, you're observing. And that's what gives you the edge. Every woman's eyes on you, even when you said nothing. That wasn't luck. That was presence. That quiet, magnetic energy that speaks louder than words. Without uttering a single sentence, Sigma males dominate the room. It's not some secret spell or flashy performance, it's authenticity. And in today's world, full of curated personas and loud noise, authenticity is revolutionary. You don't need loud charm, a flashy watch, or a million followers to be irresistible. In fact, the most magnetic man is the one who doesn't try at all. That's the Sigma. He doesn't seek approval, he doesn't beg for attention. Instead, he commands it through quiet confidence, emotional intelligence, and razor-sharp self-awareness. The Sigma male doesn't conform to traditional social hierarchies. He lives outside them, choosing independence over popularity and depth over surface. And women, they notice. Subconsciously, they're drawn to these traits because they signal strength, mystery, and self-sufficiency, qualities rooted in evolutionary psychology. A 2010 study from the University of British Columbia found that women are more attracted to men who appear proud, brooding, or even slightly withdrawn over those who are overly cheerful and expressive. Why? Because those traits imply capability, dominance, and emotional control, things our biology still responds to on a primal level. Today, we're unpacking 7 irresistible Sigma male traits that women can't resist, and why they can't help but be drawn to these lone wolves. From unshakable independence to emotional detachment that hints at deep inner strength, Sigma males possess a unique frequency that stands out in a world of noise. This isn't about manipulation or playing games, it's about mindset. It's about understanding your value, protecting your energy, and mastering your presence. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And Sigmas? They're already walking that path. Their magnetism doesn't come from trying to be liked, it comes from being real, being whole, and being unapologetically themselves. So buckle up, Sigmas, let's dive in. Trait 1, unapologetic independence. Sigmas move like they don't need anyone, and that's exactly why everyone wants them. It's a paradox that defines their magnetism. You see, independence in a Sigma male isn't just about living solo or avoiding commitment. It's a deeper, almost spiritual form of self-sufficiency. They aren't running from connection. They're rooted in their own sense of identity, mission, and value. That's rare in a world where most people crave external validation, and women, they notice, they feel it. That lack of neediness doesn't come off as cold, it comes off as confident. No over-texting, no seeking approval, just a calm, grounded presence that says, I'm here because I want to be, not because I need to be. Psychologically, this is called secure detachment. It's a trait that highly independent personalities like Sigmas exhibit. Studies in behavioral science have shown that emotional self-sufficiency can be incredibly attractive, especially in dating dynamics. Why? Because it communicates high value. When someone is clearly okay on their own, it suggests they've got options, and that triggers something primal. It's like emotional supply and demand. Scarcity makes something more desirable. And when a Sigma male says, I'm good either way, he means it. That's not game. It's clarity. He knows what he brings to the table and doesn't hinge his identity on being accepted or rejected. That's intimidating and alluring all at once. Emotional detachment doesn't mean he's numb, it just means he's not desperate. That balanced energy draws people in, especially women who are tired of emotional chaos. Humor break? Picture this. A Sigma gets invited to a party. Everyone's excited. People are texting, hyping it up. But guess what? He ghosts it before he even arrives. Not because he's antisocial, but because halfway through putting on his shoes, he realizes he'd rather spend the evening building something, reading something, or simply enjoying his own thoughts. Independence? Check. Time efficiency? Double check. That's the Sigma way, unapologetically selective with time, energy, and emotion. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. And in a world overflowing with noise, that kind of self-contained calm stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. Trait 2, mysterious aura. Let's be real. Women love a mystery. It's not just a cliche, it's psychology. Humans are naturally drawn to puzzles, and Sigma males are walking enigmas. While most guys are quick to spill their entire life story over a few texts, hoping to impress or build instant intimacy, Sigmas move differently. They operate with restraint. Every word, every story, every detail is earned, not dumped. It's like watching a slow-burn Netflix series where the main character reveals himself one episode at a time. There's something magnetic about a man who doesn't feel the need to narrate his entire past on the first date. This deliberate pacing creates anticipation. It keeps her mentally engaged, emotionally curious, and romantically hooked. She begins to read between the lines, picking up on his silences, his gaze, his energy. And just when she thinks she's got him all figured out, boom, he shifts. He reveals a new layer, an unexpected perspective, a hidden passion. That unpredictability isn't confusion, it's charisma. The science of attraction confirms that unpredictability increases dopamine in the brain, the same chemical associated with pleasure and reward. In short, mystery makes things exciting, and Sigmas know how to harness that. But here's the twist. Being mysterious isn't about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about self-respect. It's the unshakable confidence of a man who knows his worth. He doesn't offer it up like a discount sale. He lets people access to his inner world. And that energy, it's rare. Because in a world full of oversharers and approval seekers, the Sigma stands out by simply being selective. This doesn't make him cold, it makes him captivating. He's not detached, just disciplined. He's not secretive, just sovereign, and the result is powerful. He becomes the man who commands attention without demanding it, the man who inspires curiosity, not because he's trying, but because he's living with intentional mystery. Trait 3, laser-sharp purpose. Nothing turns heads like a man who knows exactly where he's going. There's something profoundly magnetic about a man who walks with certainty, not because he's showing off, but because he knows who he is and what he stands for. This is the essence of the Sigma male. Sigmas don't drift aimlessly through life. They move with a clear direction, guided not by trends or public approval, but by a deeply rooted sense of purpose. They're not chasing after social validation or fleeting fame. They're building something that lasts. While others are busy clamoring for attention, showing off on social media, or trying to keep up with the noise of the world, the Sigma is building silently, letting results do the talking. This is a man with a mission, and that mission defines him. And here's where science backs it up. Psychological studies show that people are naturally drawn to individuals who exhibit goal-directed behavior. It's called the goal gradient effect. The closer someone appears to be to achieving a meaningful goal, the more compelling they become to others. In the Sigma's case, his clarity and self-direction make him irresistibly attractive. Women in particular find this energy alluring, not because he's trying to impress them, but because he doesn't need to. His focus becomes a gravitational pull. It communicates discipline, strength, and self-respect. These are not just personality traits, they're signals of leadership, of a man who can build and sustain a vision. And here's the motivational gem. When you build your life like it's your empire, others will want to be part of it. You become the architect of something bigger than yourself, a legacy, a standard, a movement. People don't just follow men with money or looks, they follow men with momentum. And the Sigma's momentum doesn't come from outside forces. It comes from within. His ambition isn't noisy, it's quiet, relentless, and unstoppable. That's what turns heads, that's what earns respect, because a man with purpose doesn't need permission to lead, he already is. Trait 4, silent confidence. Confidence doesn't always shout. Sometimes it doesn't need to enter a room with fireworks or announce itself with loud declarations. That's the essence of the Sigma male. The man who doesn't seek validation, attention, or praise, yet commands all three without lifting a finger. Sigmas don't brag about their achievements. They don't feel the need to broadcast their ambitions or flaunt their lifestyle. Instead, they move through life with quiet determination and a calm, almost mysterious energy. It's not arrogance, it's certainty. They walk like they've already won the war, not because they're better than everyone else, but because they've made peace with who they are. That's real confidence. Psychologically, this kind of self-assured behavior has a magnetic pull, especially when it comes to how women perceive it. Studies in evolutionary psychology have shown that women are instinctively drawn to men who display traits of competence, control, and emotional stability. These aren't men who desperately chase attention or validation. Instead, they radiate a sense of internal security. This is because such traits subconsciously signal a man's ability to protect, provide and lead, a primal cue that still influences attraction today. In a noisy world filled with overcompensation and performative masculinity, the Sigma's quiet confidence is like a breath of fresh air. It signals strength without aggression, leadership without dominance, and security without neediness. Here's the kicker. When you're truly confident, you don't have to prove it to anyone. You don't need the flashy car, the loud voice, or the constant social media updates. And paradoxically, the moment you stop trying to impress women is the exact moment they become most impressed. That's because authenticity is rare and irresistibly attractive. Women can feel when a man is at ease with himself, when he moves with purpose, and when he listens more than he speaks. Confidence that isn't worn like armor, but lived like truth, is not only powerful, it's unforgettable. It makes you stand out without trying. That's the Sigma edge. Trait 5, emotional mastery. Ever seen a Sigma lose his cool in public? Probably not. That's because emotional control is one of his deadliest weapons. In a world that often rewards loud voices and emotional outbursts, the Sigma male stands apart by staying composed. No matter the storm, emotional control isn't just about suppressing anger or hiding feelings. It's about mastering them. It's about knowing when to speak, when to stay silent, and how to remain grounded even when everyone else is spiraling. Women respect this trait deeply. Emotional restraint doesn't come off as cold or detached. It radiates maturity, inner strength, and a sense of leadership. It tells people that this man doesn't need to prove himself with drama. He doesn't need to dominate a conversation or react explosively to make a point. Instead, his presence speaks louder than his emotions. Psychology backs this up. Studies have shown that individuals who exhibit higher emotional regulation are often perceived as more attractive, reliable, and competent. For Sigma males, this trait isn't a tactic, it's a way of life. Take this fun example. While everyone else is passionately arguing about politics over a family dinner, tossing opinions like grenades across the table, the Sigma is quietly cutting his steak, enjoying every bite, and smiling at the absurdity around him. He doesn't need to jump into every debate. He doesn't seek validation through conflict. He simply exists in his own world, unbothered, unmoved, undefeated. And that energy, it's magnetic. Women notice it. They remember the man who didn't flinch, who didn't take the bait, who stayed calm while the room burned with tension. Being the calm in the chaos is a form of silent power. It signals that you're not ruled by emotions, you rule them. And in a society that often confuses loudness with confidence, the Sigma's quiet command becomes unforgettable. His emotional control is not weakness, it's discipline, it's patience, and it's wisdom. That's why, when others are remembered for what they shouted, the Sigma is remembered for how he remained still. Trait 6, authenticity without apology. You know what never goes out of style? Being real. In a world that's constantly pushing people to fit into boxes, follow trends, and filter their lives to perfection, the Sigma male stands apart by doing something incredibly rare. He shows up as himself. No filters, no pretenses, no performance, just raw, unapologetic authenticity. This isn't just a quirk, it's a silent rebellion against everything fake. But even more than that, it's alignment. Alignment with who he is, what he believes, and how he chooses to live. And believe it or not, this kind of radical honesty is magnetic, especially to women. Why? Because most people are tired of masks. Think about how much of our lives are spent online, scrolling through airbrushed perfection. We live in a digital age where authenticity has become a novelty. Women, just like men, are constantly bombarded with inauthentic connections, half-truths, and people pretending to be something they're not. So when a Sigma walks into the room with that calm, grounded energy that says it disrupts the norm, it gets noticed. It creates a ripple. He becomes a rare find in a sea of scripted personalities. Now here's the kicker. Being real doesn't mean being liked by everyone. In fact, the truth often offends those who are comfortable with lies. People might misunderstand a Sigma, they might even reject him. But the ones who matter, the ones who are awake enough to see through the noise, they'll never forget him. Because there's something unforgettable about someone who doesn't bend to fit your expectations, but instead stands tall in their own truth. It's not just about dating or attraction, it's about energy. Realness carries a certain vibration. Psychological studies show that people are instinctively drawn to those who are congruent, that is, their actions match their words and their identity feels consistent. This builds trust, and trust is the foundation of every meaningful connection. So while trends may come and go and fakeness might win temporary applause, authenticity always wins the long game. The Sigma male knows this. He's not trying to impress. He's simply living in truth, and that right there is the most attractive quality of all. Trait 7, selective attention. This one's subtle, but savage. Sigma males have mastered the art of selective attention. They don't dish it out freely like candy on Halloween. Their time, energy, and presence are premium. And in a world that's constantly loud, always online, and begging for validation, that kind of restraint becomes magnetic. When a Sigma locks in and chooses to focus on someone, it's not by accident. It's not because he's bored or just scrolling through life, no. It's intentional, and you can feel it. It's the kind of presence that makes someone stop and wonder, why me? That's where the power lies. Because psychologically, we crave what is rare. The principle of scarcity isn't just for economics, it applies to human behavior too. Studies in social psychology show that we're wired to place a higher value on what is less accessible. When a Sigma male doesn't make himself available to just anyone, his attention becomes a reward, not a given. Women sense this immediately. Unlike the guy who's always texting back within seconds or liking every post out of habit, the Sigma holds back. Not to play games, but because he's not easily impressed. And that makes others want to impress him. It's that energy shift that builds desire. A Sigma doesn't announce his interest with flashy gestures or over-the-top compliments. He simply observes, speaks when it matters, and offers his presence like a king offering a rare audience. It turns heads without him even trying. Women pick up on the fact that his approval must be earned, and that creates curiosity, followed by the urge to prove themselves worthy of that attention. Want to drive that same kind of mystery and appeal? Don't be available 24/7. Don't constantly post, reply, or react. Instead, refine your focus. Save your energy for people and projects that matter. Be rare, be intentional, be present. But only when it counts. That's not just confidence, that's strategy. And it's exactly why Sigma males remain unforgettable. So there you have it, Sigmas. 7 undeniable reasons why you don't need to chase, impress, or beg for validation from anyone, especially not women. The truth is, when you cultivate these core traits, you stop being part of the crowd. You, the standard, you stop being the man who waits for approval and start becoming the force that shifts the entire dynamic of the room. You don't have to seek the spotlight, it naturally follows you. But let's make one thing clear. These traits aren't tricks or surface-level hacks. They're deeply rooted in psychology and self-mastery. Take independence, for example. It's not about isolating yourself from the world, but about being grounded in your identity, making decisions from a place of strength, not insecurity. Studies have shown that women are naturally drawn to men who are secure in themselves, who don't rely on constant validation. That's biology, not bravado. Your mission, then, is not to pretend. Don't mimic confidence, build it, don't fake self-respect, live it. Because the world is already overflowing with carbon copy influencers, parroting charisma and chasing clout. What's rare, what's needed is authenticity. A man who stands firm in silence, who acts with purpose, and who knows that solitude is not loneliness, but power. And to the women watching, you feel it, don't you? There's an energy you can't quite explain. A Sigma man doesn't demand attention, he draws it without trying. You can sense his calm, his focus, his edge. So if this message struck a chord, Sigmas, hit that like button, subscribe and join the movement. We're building a tribe of grounded, intentional men who master themselves, live with conviction, and leave an undeniable impact on the world. She looked across the room, locked eyes with him once, and couldn't stop thinking about him. Sigma males don't need to chase attention, attention finds them. There's something unmistakably captivating about a Sigma male. He doesn't announce his presence with noise or flash. He doesn't demand to be seen, yet somehow he's the one everyone stops seeing. Women in particular are drawn to him, often before they even understand why. It's not just about a chiseled jawline or the way he carries himself. It's the energy, the unspoken confidence, the self-sufficiency, the mystery. Sigma males operate in a frequency most aren't tuned into, and when a woman encounters that energy, it disrupts her norm. Psychologically speaking, the brain is hardwired to detect anomalies. When someone behaves in a way that defies social expectations, they stand out. Unlike alpha males who dominate spaces with charisma and control, sigma males dominate with their silence, their calm detachment from the crowd, and their intense presence provoke intrigue. He doesn't need to boast about his achievements. His demeanor says it all. He's the kind of man who knows who he is and doesn't need external validation. Carl Jung once said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order." That's the sigma male, unpredictable on the outside but profoundly grounded on the inside. He lives by his own code. He's not in competition with anyone, he's just on a different path altogether. And that divergence is magnetic. It signals strength without arrogance, mystery without manipulation. So what exactly do women notice when a sigma male enters a room? His independence, the way he makes eye contact without needing to impress, the slight smirk that hints at an untold story. They feel his confidence, quiet but undeniable. It's not rehearsed, it's real, and that authenticity, that's the hook. That's why one look turns into a lasting impression. Hey Sigmas, welcome back to the channel where we decode the Sigma lifestyle and help you live with silent dominance. Today's video is a deep dive into what women pick up on instantly about Sigma males and why it drives them wild with curiosity, confusion, or even quiet admiration. Let's get into it. Number one, the calm in the chaos. Sigma males have this rare, unshakable calm that sets them apart the moment they enter a room. It isn't something they try to project, it's simply who they are. This natural tranquility isn't a mask or a tactic. It's a deeply rooted inner stability, developed through self-awareness, independence, and a refusal to rely on external validation. While many men are busy trying to win approval, get noticed, or compete for attention, Sigma males lean into their own rhythm. They're not in a hurry to speak, not in a rush to prove, and certainly not in the business of impressing for the sake of it. And that's exactly what makes them so magnetic. In social situations, this calmness translates into presence. When a Sigma male speaks, he doesn't waste words. He doesn't try to dominate conversations, but when he does offer something, people listen. There's a psychological concept known as the law of scarcity. We tend to value what is rare. In a world overflowing with noise, opinion, and performance, a man who is composed, intentional, and quietly assured becomes a psychological anomaly. That's why women, especially emotionally intelligent ones, notice him instantly. He doesn't need to say he's confident. It radiates from him in his posture, his tone, and the way he observes more than he reacts. This kind of calm is often rooted in emotional intelligence and self-mastery. Studies in psychology show that those with high emotional regulation are perceived as more trustworthy, competent, and attractive. Sigma males embody this without even trying. Their calmness tells a story, one of self-possession, strength, and inner peace. It's the kind of calm that can't be faked, and women pick up on that almost instinctively. It's not about arrogance, it's about knowing who you are so deeply that the world's chaos doesn't shake your core. And in a time where everyone's trying to be louder, a Sigma male's quiet strength speaks volumes. Number two, the way he observes, not reacts. You ever been in a room with someone who's not the loudest but sees everything? That's a Sigma. He doesn't seek attention. Attention naturally gravitates toward him. While others are busy talking, joking, or showing off, the Sigma is quietly observing, analyzing every detail of the room, every subtle gesture, every shift in tone. He's not doing this to manipulate or judge, but because that's how he operates, always watching, always calculating. This quiet awareness, this laser-focused presence, creates an invisible force field that draws people in, especially women. Women often say they feel seen by a Sigma male, not in a superficial or unsettling way, but in a deeply perceptive one. While the average man might rely on charm or flashy gestures to impress, the Sigma does the opposite. He listens more than he speaks. He notices the things others miss, the way her eyes flicker when she's uncomfortable, the pause before she laughs, the meaning behind her silence. It's this deep attention to detail that makes women feel uniquely acknowledged around him. He doesn't interrupt, he doesn't over-explain, and that kind of restraint is rare and incredibly attractive. Psychologically speaking, this calm demeanor and detached awareness hint at a high level of emotional intelligence and self-control, traits that are often associated with leadership and maturity. According to social dynamics experts, People are generally more drawn to those who reveal less because our brains are wired to crave resolution. We want to solve the mystery. The Sigma male silence becomes an unspoken challenge. Women find themselves wondering, who is he? What is he thinking? What makes him tick? And that curiosity can be far more powerful than any pickup line. In a world full of noise, the Sigma's silence speaks volumes. His mystery isn't an act, it's who he is. And that enigma, that rare ability to see without showing, understand without speaking, is what makes his presence unforgettable. Number 3, body language that doesn't beg. Sigma males never chase approval, and their body language is proof of it. In a world where many men seek validation through flashy gestures or exaggerated confidence, the Sigma male stands apart with a calm, self-assured presence. He walks into a room not to be noticed, but because he has somewhere to be. His hands rest easily by his sides, not clenched or restless. His posture, upright but not rigid, he's comfortable in his own skin. And when he makes eye contact, it's not accidental or timid, it's deliberate, focused and brief, just long enough to show presence, never desperation. These subtle cues speak volumes. Women are biologically wired to read body language. It's part of our evolutionary toolkit. Long before language, humans communicated through posture, facial expression and movement. So when a woman observes a man who isn't fidgeting, shifting nervously, or exaggerating his gestures to win attention, her subconscious registers something rare. Confidence without arrogance. Presence without performance. The Sigma male doesn't need to chase the spotlight because he's the spotlight without even trying. He doesn't flash wealth or boast about success. His value is internal, and that silent confidence is magnetic. Social psychology tells us that nonverbal cues make up over 70% of communication. That means what he's saying speaks even louder than what he could say. No desperate smiles, no puffed chest, no exaggerated swagger, just stillness, awareness, control. This quiet energy confuses people at first, especially women who are used to being pursued, but it also intrigues them. His calm demeanor creates a mystery. What's his story? Why isn't he reacting like everyone else? That intrigue often leads to attraction because mystery invites curiosity, and curiosity is the beginning of emotional investment. So while the world scrambles for likes and applause, the Sigma male moves differently. He doesn't perform, he doesn't chase, he simply exists in his own frame, and that, ironically, is what makes him impossible to ignore. Number 4, the Aura of Detachment. There's something undeniably magnetic about a man who thrives in solitude. He's not alone because he can't find company. He's alone because he chooses to be. This is the essence of the Sigma male, a man who finds fulfillment in his own world, driven not by social validation but by inner purpose. His detachment isn't a sign of emotional coldness or antisocial behavior, it's a signal of emotional independence. Psychology supports this too. Research shows that people who are comfortable being alone often have higher emotional intelligence and self-awareness. These are not traits of someone who's closed off. They're signs of someone who's grounded. Sigma males don't need constant interaction to feel alive because their life isn't empty. It's full of goals, passions, thoughts, creativity, and quiet strength. Their silence isn't awkward, it's intentional. While many chase connections to avoid facing themselves, the Sigma male embraces solitude as a space for growth. He reads, he builds, he explores ideas, and he sharpens his mind. In a world that's always loud, the Sigma is the one who's quietly building an empire, often unnoticed until the results speak louder than any words. And here's where it gets really interesting. When a woman comes across a man like this, something shifts. She senses the difference immediately. He's not needy, he's not trying to impress, and he's not orbiting around her like a satellite. That absence of neediness doesn't repel, it attracts. Why? Because being around someone who doesn't you, but would you is rare. It turns the usual dynamic upside down. It suggests strength, stability, and mystery. This sense of selective connection creates an almost irresistible allure. A Sigma male doesn't chase validation, he offers presence, and that presence, earned rather than demanded, becomes a kind of quiet power that others can't help but notice, especially women. Number 5, he talks less but says more. A Sigma male doesn't waste words. He doesn't talk just to kill awkward silences or impress a crowd. For him, speech isn't a performance. It's a purpose in a world overflowing with noise, constant chatter, and shallow conversations. His silence is intentional. It speaks volumes before he even opens his mouth. And when he finally does, women notice. His words aren't scattered thoughts or ego-driven boasts. They're deliberate, thoughtful, and often profound. That's what makes them land so heavily. They're unexpected in a world where most people talk more and say less. Women are often conditioned to being talked at rather than spoken to. They're used to men trying to dominate the conversation, constantly selling themselves, cracking jokes, or offering empty compliments. But a Sigma male flips that script entirely. He doesn't try to steal attention. He commands it effortlessly. His voice carries an unspoken gravity that draws a woman in because it's rare. It's authentic. When he speaks, she leans in. Not because he's loud, but because he's real. His words are like puzzle pieces that hint at a deeper mind and a world she's not used to accessing. And that's the real mystery. Sigma males don't just talk, they reveal, but only in glimpses. What he shares is never everything. It's always enough to spark curiosity, but not enough to give it all away. This makes his words echo long after the conversation ends. Psychology tells us that people are more drawn to what they can't fully understand. That's the Sigma's unspoken superpower. His restraint makes him magnetic. He creates a space where mystery and meaning coexist. He speaks not to impress, but to connect, to express, to reveal something genuine. And in doing so, he creates an unforgettable experience, not just a conversation, but a moment that lingers. Number 6, he's present yet elusive. This one's weird but true. A Sigma male can be sitting right next to you, yet feel miles away. It's not that he's ignoring anyone, and it's not arrogance, it's just how his brain operates. While others are fixated on what's happening in the moment, the Sigma male often retreats inward, lost in a swirl of thoughts, ideas, strategies, or personal revelations. Women notice this. They sense that although he's physically present, he's mentally wandering in realms they can't access. And oddly enough, this disconnection creates an undeniable magnetic pull. It's that very mental distance that becomes his mystique. His eyes might scan the room, but he's not analyzing people. He's dissecting ideas, replaying events, or calculating his next step. Neurologically, this tendency to introspect is tied to increased activity in the brain's default mode network, a region linked to imagination, memory, and self-reflection. It's not just daydreaming, it's deep, purposeful thinking. Sigma males don't do small talk well because their minds are usually preoccupied with solving something bigger. This gives him an edge most don't understand but can't help feeling drawn to. To a woman observing this, the Sigma male is present yet unreachable. She can see him, even speak to him, but she knows she doesn't fully have him. That creates a kind of tension, a psychological gap, and here's the twist: that gap generates what's often interpreted as chemistry. It's the same reason we're drawn to characters in films who have a secret or a haunted past. We want to unravel them. The Sigma's mind is always dancing with something unspoken, and people around him, especially women, feel the rhythm even if they don't hear the music. In essence, the Sigma's mysterious vibe isn't an act, it's a byproduct of his inner world. He's not trying to be aloof, he's just wired to live in two places at once, the real world and the one in his head. And it's that invisible duality that women can't seem to look away from. Number 7, self-mastery and discipline. Women are drawn to the man who's in control of himself. Not the loudest in the room, but the most composed. Sigma males master this art of quiet dominance. Their self-discipline isn't a performance, it's a lifestyle. Whether it's in how they eat clean without announcing it, how they commit to their work without chasing validation, or how they maintain their physical form without flexing in selfies, their habits speak volumes. It's not about vanity, it's about self-respect. A Sigma male sees his body, mind, and time as tools to shape his reality, and he treats them accordingly. He doesn't need the world to clap when he chooses the gym over the party, or early mornings over endless distractions. This control over himself signals to women something powerful. This man doesn't just survive life, he commands it. Studies in psychology consistently show that self-discipline is one of the most attractive traits because it's linked to long-term stability, self-mastery, and emotional control, all qualities women subconsciously associate with security and leadership. A Sigma's ability to delay gratification and stick to his values makes him different in a world that rewards instant results. Women can sense when a man is sculpting his life deliberately, not for likes or attention, but because he's building something meaningful. It's that invisible aura of purpose and control that speaks louder than words. So while others seek applause, the Sigma earns quiet admiration, often without saying a thing. Number 8, his independence isn't just financial. A lot of guys talk about being independent, but Sigma males it in every sense of the word. This isn't just about paying rent on time or having a job. A Sigma male builds a life that runs on his own terms. He doesn't need the crowd's applause to feel worthy, and he certainly doesn't rely on constant companionship to feel complete. His independence runs deep, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. He thinks for himself, acts with purpose, and isn't afraid of solitude. In fact, he thrives in it. Unlike others who may talk about their future, the Sigma male quietly plans his next move like a chess master, calculating risks, building wealth, and designing a life that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. This level of autonomy is magnetic. Women who've been around needy, insecure men often find themselves stunned by a Sigma's self-sufficiency. He's not trying to impress, and yet he does. He's not looking to be saved, and yet he becomes the safe space. His emotional stability speaks volumes, even in silence, which is why some find him intimidating. They can't control or predict him. But to others, especially women craving strength and certainty, his independence is nothing short of irresistible. Number 9, he's unpredictable in the best way. Predictability is boring. And Sigma males? They're anything but predictable. These men thrive in the unexpected, refusing to live by routine or societal expectations. One moment he's immersed in a stack of philosophical books, decoding the complexities of life, and the next he's off the grid, hiking a misty mountain trail he didn't even plan to visit. This isn't randomness, it's a reflection of inner depth. Sigmas are driven by curiosity and self-discovery, and that journey rarely follows a straight line. Their unpredictability isn't about being reckless, it's about living with intention, just not the kind that fits into a box. Women find this magnetically intriguing, not because he's trying to impress, but because he's impressive in how he moves through life. His surprises aren't about chocolates or grand gestures. They're about moments that reveal who he truly is. One day it might be a spontaneous conversation about the universe over coffee. Another, it's a sudden invitation to go stargazing in silence. This depth and spontaneity create emotional resonance. Psychology tells us that novelty activates the brain's reward center. So when a woman is around a Sigma male, her mind lights up, not from what he gives, but from who he authentically is. Number 10, he's focused on purpose, not people. Sigma males are driven not by the applause of the crowd or the lure of social approval, but by something much deeper, purpose. Unlike others who chase likes, fame, or validation, the Sigma male is often on a personal mission. He's building something, chasing mastery, or relentlessly carving out a life on his own terms. His ambition isn't loud, it doesn't need to be. It's the quiet, unshakable fire behind his eyes. Women notice this immediately, not because he flaunts it, but because it radiates from him without trying. This kind of self-directed focus is rare in a world full of distractions and noise. When a woman encounters a Sigma, she quickly understands that he's not just looking for company. He's building a legacy, and if she wants to be part of his life, she must contribute to it, not compete with or derail it. His time and energy are precious, invested only in things that serve his larger mission. That's the unspoken standard he sets. It's not arrogance, it's intention. That's what separates him from the rest. While others seek to impress, the Sigma simply lives with purpose. And in a world starving for meaning, that kind of presence is magnetic. Sigmas, here's the truth. You don't need to change to be seen. You're already being noticed for exactly who you are. The calm, the silence, the purpose, the mystery, all of it tells the world that you move differently, and that difference, it's your superpower. So keep refining, keep focusing, keep detaching from the noise and locking in on your mission, because when you walk in silent but sure, everyone feels it, even if they don't understand it. Sigmas, if you found value in this breakdown, do yourself a favor, like this video, hit subscribe and join this growing community of purpose-driven men. Apply these Sigma qualities to your life and watch everything elevate. Stay safe and stay Sigma. Hello, Sigmas. There's a reason women find you both captivating and confounding, and it's not something they can easily define. You're not loud like the alpha, trying to dominate every room, nor are you passive like the beta, seeking comfort and approval. You occupy a rare space in the male hierarchy, self-contained, emotionally independent, and rooted in purpose. Your presence doesn't scream for attention, it's attention. It's the way you move through the world with a calm detachment, fully aware of who you are and uninterested in proving it to anyone. While other men chase status and recognition, you walk your own path. This quiet defiance of social norms signals strength, and biologically, women are wired to respond to strength. Studies in evolutionary psychology suggest that women are subconsciously attracted to men who exhibit autonomy, confidence, and emotional self-sufficiency. In short, the Sigma male's aloof nature isn't just a personality quirk, it's an ancient signal of genetic fitness and emotional control. Your unpredictability only fuels the intrigue. You're not always around, not always reachable, and never clingy. This absence creates a psychological phenomenon known as a concept proven in behavioral science to make people more obsessed when attention is given in unpredictable patterns. Without trying, you become the puzzle they feel compelled to solve. But here's the twist. None of this is a strategy. You're not manipulating anyone. You're just being yourself. Your silence, your distance, your discipline, they're not tactics. They're your nature. That authenticity makes you rare in a world full of performers. And in that rarity lies your magnetism. You are the storm that brews in silence, never needing to announce its arrival. You're the calm that unsettles, the mystery that challenges, and the freedom that tempts. And that's why they can't look away. Now let's break it all down and uncover what truly makes the Sigma male such an irresistible enigma. Number one, the mystery factor. Women crave what they can't control. There's a deep psychological truth at play here. Humans are naturally wired to desire the unknown. Our brains are curious machines, constantly scanning for patterns and novelty. When something or someone defies predictability, it triggers a sort of mental alertness. That's where the Sigma male enters the scene. Unlike alpha males, who tend to broadcast their confidence and intentions loudly and clearly, Sigmas operate on an entirely different frequency. They don't demand attention, like shadows slipping through a crowd, they move with quiet confidence, seemingly unaffected by the need for approval. And that unpredictability, it's pure psychological magnetism for the female mind. Picture this, a Sigma male sitting alone at a cafe, lost in a book, unbothered by the world. He doesn't scan the room for validation, he's not performing, and yet, without even trying, he becomes the center of attention. Women nearby start to notice him, not because he's loud, but because he's completely content in solitude. That silent independence speaks volumes. He becomes a riddle they want to solve, a puzzle that's missing just enough pieces to spark obsession. From a psychological perspective, this taps into something known as the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency to remember incomplete experiences or unresolved situations. The Sigma male's elusive nature creates that very tension. He doesn't overshare or reveal everything. And when he finally speaks, his words are measured and intentional, almost like coded messages designed to provoke thought. He leaves just enough unsaid to make others lean in, mentally and emotionally. It's not manipulation, it's mystery. And mystery breeds attraction. What makes this dynamic even more fascinating is that the Sigma isn't playing a game. He's simply being himself, reserved, thoughtful, and inwardly focused. But in a world that often rewards the loudest voice, his quiet power becomes impossible to ignore. Women may not always understand why they're drawn in, but they are, and that's the Sigma effect. Number two, the Sigma's radical independence, the ultimate turn on and turn off. Here's the twist. Sigmas don't need women to feel complete. And ironically, that's exactly what makes women desire them more. It's one of the greatest paradoxes in human attraction. When a man shows he's emotionally self-sufficient, he becomes magnetically irresistible. You see, society conditions us to believe that a man must pursue, prove, and persist to earn a woman's affection. But Sigma males flip that script. They don't seek validation from a relationship because they've already built a strong identity apart from it. They're content with their own company, their passions, and their goals. And this independence sends a powerful message without a single word. This quiet confidence triggers something deep in the female psyche. Psychologists call it pre-selection. the evolutionary concept that people are more attracted to those who appear to be desired or hard to get. When a Sigma male doesn't cling or chase, he communicates value. He doesn't need attention, he commands it. He doesn't beg for love, he offers presence. That's rare, and in a world filled with people desperate for connection, that rarity becomes priceless. Now here's where things get interesting. Women want to feel wanted. It's a fundamental emotional desire, but the Sigma male doesn't need them. And that creates tension. Not the aggressive, toxic kind, but the quiet, psychological kind that sparks curiosity, desire, and yes, insecurity. When a woman realizes she isn't the center of his world, she either rises to meet his level or struggles to hold on. This dynamic flips the power structure. He becomes the prize, not because he says so, but because he lives like it. And when someone doesn't need you, but chooses you, that's powerful. That's when admiration turns into craving. It's no longer about romance, it's about validation. Am I enough for him becomes the unspoken question. That's when desire morphs into obsession, and obsession breeds fear. Fear of being replaced. Fear of never truly having him. Fear of not measuring up to his quiet, mysterious standard. Sigmas don't manipulate emotions. They just move through the world with such rare composure and self-respect that it changes how others see them. And that, ironically, is the very reason why they're chased the hardest. Even when they're not chasing anyone at all. Number 3, emotional control, the Sigma's power move. While others react, the Sigma male responds. That single line sums up the essence of the Sigma's emotional dominance. He's not emotionless or detached from reality. He's simply mastered the art of self-regulation. Where most men might get flustered, angry, or overly excited in stressful situations, the Sigma remains composed. It's not because he doesn't feel anything. It's because he's learned how to rule over his emotions rather than be ruled by them. This level of calm under pressure isn't just admirable, it's captivating. Psychologically speaking, emotional control is a key indicator of high emotional intelligence. Studies show that individuals who can regulate their emotions tend to have better decision-making skills, stronger relationships, and greater leadership potential. The Sigma embodies this trait not as a tactic, but as a way of life. When tension fills the room and everyone is looking for direction, the Sigma doesn't panic. He assesses, he processes, and then he acts. That response, not reaction, becomes his superpower. Now imagine a woman trying to test him, poking, provoking, trying to get a rise out of him. Maybe she wants to see if he'll crack, if he's really as stoic as he seems, but he doesn't flinch, he doesn't lash out, and he certainly doesn't chase validation. Instead, he meets emotional volatility with a steady gaze and an unshaken presence. That's when something strange happens. She gets more intrigued. Why? Because self-mastery is incredibly rare, and rare things tend to fascinate. Women are biologically wired to respond to strength, not just physical, but emotional. A man who can hold his ground when tested, who doesn't lose himself in chaos, sends a subconscious message of stability and security. This is ancient wiring at play. In evolutionary psychology, calmness in the face of stress signals competence, leadership, and protection, traits associated with high-value mates. But this same trait that draws her in can also rattle her. It flips the script. She's not in control of his emotions, he is. And that power dynamic is unfamiliar territory for many. She may be used to men who stumble over themselves to prove worth. The Sigma doesn't play that game. He simply exists, calm, aware, and in control. And that, more than anything else, is what makes him both desired and feared. Number 4, no validation needed. He's untouchable by opinion. The Sigma male's self-worth isn't tied to likes, texts, or attention. And that's precisely what makes him so different in a world addicted to validation. While many people chase approval through constant social media updates or emotional reassurance from others, the Sigma male moves through life guided by something deeper, an unshakable internal compass. This compass isn't built on ego or arrogance, but on a profound understanding of who he is, what he values, and where he's headed. He's not looking for someone to complete him because he's already whole. If a woman wants to walk beside him, she must bring value, authenticity, and alignment, not just attraction. This internal validation is what makes the Sigma male so intimidating, especially in the realm of dating and relationships. Women are often used to playing the role of validators, offering compliments, attention, or emotional support to win affection or control the dynamics. But with a Sigma, these usual tactics fall flat. He doesn't seek permission to be himself, and he doesn't crumble under pressure to conform. It's not that he's cold, it's that he's composed. You can compliment him, and he'll acknowledge it with genuine appreciation. But don't expect him to become emotionally dependent on your praise. That calm indifference to validation flips the script and leaves many wondering how to reach him. Psychologically, this level of self-containment is linked to traits such as high emotional intelligence, introversion, and a secure attachment style. The Sigma doesn't need external reinforcement to feel valuable, and that creates a powerful paradox. He becomes even more desirable because of how little he needs validation. This can be deeply unsettling to those used to power through emotional influence. Ultimately, you can admire a Sigma male, and you probably will. But the moment you try to control him through admiration or attention, you'll realize he doesn't operate on the same frequency. And that shakes the foundation of many social interactions because it forces people to confront their own dependency on external approval. In a world that constantly tells you to seek validation, the Sigma male stands as a rare figure, calm, centered, and complete. Number 5, the lifestyle choice, freedom over attachment. Here's the raw truth. Sigma males choose freedom, always. And that choice is not rooted in arrogance or selfishness, but in clarity. They understand something most people overlook. When freedom is compromised, so is authenticity. A Sigma male can love deeply, even passionately, but never at the cost of his purpose, values, or personal evolution. His mission, whether it's building something meaningful, exploring his potential, or chasing a vision bigger than himself, will always come first. He doesn't seek validation through romantic entanglements. Instead, he seeks alignment. And if a relationship threatens to derail his path, he walks away, not because he's heartless, but because he's self-aware. This doesn't mean he's emotionless. On the contrary, Sigmas are deeply introspective and emotionally intelligent. They feel things profoundly, but they refuse to get emotionally ensnared in chaos or toxicity. While others may stay in relationships out of fear, obligation, or comfort, the Sigma male is guided by a higher inner compass. He knows that love built on manipulation, guilt, or dependency isn't really love at all. And so, when faced with drama, threats, or ultimatums, he does what few men have the courage to do. He leaves. To some women, that's unsettling. Because you can't control a Sigma. You can't lock him down with passive-aggressive texts, emotional blackmail, or the classic prove you love me games. He doesn't play by traditional relationship rules. He's not driven by conquest or control. He's driven by inner peace and purpose. And when that peace is threatened, he chooses solitude over suffering. He doesn't ghost to be cruel or mysterious. He disappears because to him, peace is priceless. A true Sigma would rather be alone and at peace than attached and suffocating. This is why Sigma males are both feared and admired. They're not rebels without a cause. They're rebels with a mission. And that mission always comes before any relationship. It's not about avoiding love, but about honoring it in its purest form, without neediness, control, or compromise of the self. In a world obsessed with attachment, the Sigma male reminds us that sometimes the strongest love is the one that walks away to stay whole. Number 6, the duality of desire and fear. He reflects their insecurities. Here's where things get deep, because the Sigma male isn't just a personality type, he's a mirror that reflects everything people try to hide from themselves. Quiet, independent, emotionally composed, and unapologetically detached. A Sigma male doesn't play by society's expected roles. He doesn't chase approval, and he certainly doesn't shapeshift to be liked. And that's exactly what makes him so unsettling to some, especially to those who rely on others to affirm their worth. Take, for instance, a woman who thrives on attention. When she meets a Sigma, his calm disinterest in superficial flattery can feel like a cold gust of air. It's not that he ignores her. He simply doesn't feed the need for constant validation, and that absence. It exposes the insecurity within. The same goes for someone who desires control in relationships. Sigmas don't yield easily, and their unshakable sense of autonomy makes it clear. No one can manipulate what doesn't seek approval in the first place. Even more powerful is what happens when someone is used to male attention as a way to measure their desirability. The Sigma doesn't play that game. His lack of pursuit can feel like rejection, but in truth it's just neutrality. The discomfort it causes isn't something he creates, it's something he reveals. Like a mirror held up to the soul, he silently reflects back unacknowledged neediness, hidden fears, or unresolved self-worth issues. This makes the Sigma male incredibly magnetic and equally intimidating, because people aren't reacting to him, they're reacting to what they see in themselves when they're around him. He doesn't manipulate feelings, he simply holds space for the truth. And in a world obsessed with illusions, that raw, reflective clarity is both seductive and scary. Number 7, the Sigma challenge. He demands growth. You don't date a Sigma male, you rise to meet him. This isn't your typical relationship dynamic where superficial attraction is enough. A Sigma male is wired differently. He challenges you not just on the surface, but at the very core of who you are. Spiritually, he inspires you to reflect, grow, and awaken a deeper sense of purpose. Emotionally, he encourages depth, honesty, and resilience. Intellectually, he seeks meaningful conversations, not just sweet talk or surface-level flattery. If your mind is dull, he won't be captivated. If your soul is asleep, he won't chase you. That's because a Sigma doesn't seek a partner to impress or possess. He seeks someone who mirrors the journey of self-mastery he's already on. He's not moved by beauty standards, flashy trends, or the typical games of attraction. What draws him in is raw authenticity, the kind that can't be faked. He notices when a woman stands firmly in her truth, when her presence is grounded, and when she's walking her own path of growth. To him, beauty without depth is noise. He values presence over pretense and character over cosmetics. Women who hunger for self-discovery and transformation find themselves magnetically drawn to him. With a Sigma, every conversation can feel like a revelation, every moment like a mirror to your untapped potential. But those who simply want comfort, validation, or a safety net often can't handle the intensity. They run, not because he's toxic, but because he's a trigger for change. He's not a temporary high or a romantic escape. He's a portal, one that opens to evolution, awakening, and expansion. Being with him doesn't just add excitement to your life, it rewrites it. If you're ready for that kind of journey, he won't walk ahead of you. He'll walk beside you, but only if you're truly ready to rise. Number 8, the loner energy, deeply connected, yet unavailable. Sigmas are true masters of solitude, not because they dislike people, but because they thrive in their own company. Unlike extroverts who draw energy from crowds, or even introverts who seek close-knit bonds, Sigmas operate on a different frequency. They find clarity, renewal, and even strategy in their alone time. This solitude isn't a weakness, it's a form of power. Their independence is deliberate and deeply rooted in self-sufficiency. When a Sigma male walks through life, he isn't waiting for validation or approval. His compass is internal. That's exactly why women often find him both irresistible and unnerving. His silence speaks volumes, and his confidence doesn't need to shout. He doesn't cling, beg, or play the game of constant reassurance. If he sends a message, it's because he wants to, not because he's afraid to lose someone. If he vanishes for a while, it's not a game, it's a recharge. That kind of emotional autonomy can feel liberating to some and threatening to others. How do you keep someone who doesn't fear losing you? That's the enigma. It's not arrogance. It's the rare kind of freedom that says, I choose you, but I don't need you. And that, in a world of codependency, is both beautiful and terrifying. Number 9, the unwritten rule. Women know they can't own him. There's an unspoken truth. You don't possess a Sigma male. He is not someone to be owned, controlled, or confined. You walk beside him as an equal, or you simply watch him walk away without explanation or apology. This unclaimable nature is exactly what makes him so intoxicating. Women may be deeply drawn to his mysterious aura, but there's always a quiet understanding. They'll never fully him. This isn't because he's emotionally unavailable, but because his identity isn't rooted in validation or external approval. When he gives his attention or love, it's a deliberate choice, not a performance. His love runs deep, but it's never loud, never transactional. He's immune to superficial games. You can't bribe him with beauty or sway him with emotional manipulation. He sees through it all. With the Sigma, you either rise into your highest self or he simply won't engage, not out of arrogance, but principle. So Sigmas, what's the ultimate message here? You are desired not because you shout the loudest, but because you walk your own path with quiet confidence. You are feared, not for being aggressive, but for your refusal to conform or seek approval. In a world that pressures men to chase validation, fit into molds, and compromise their truth, you remain unshaken, authentic, grounded, and unapologetically yourself. That alone makes you rare. When you speak less, the world listens more. When you move with intention, you make waves without trying. Studies in social psychology even show that individuals who display non-reactive, self-assured behavior are often seen as more attractive and powerful. Your presence doesn't beg for attention, it demands it through sheer authenticity. So if this message resonates, like, comment and subscribe to join a tribe of thinkers who lead with purpose. Don't embody Sigma traits to impress. Do it to evolve. You are the storm, the calm, and the force. Stay true, stay Sigma. He doesn't chase, he doesn't brag, and yet she can't stop watching. The older Sigma male doesn't make noise, but somehow his silence speaks volumes. While the modern world buzzes with attention-seeking theatrics, men showcasing abs, cars, luxury watches, and motivational quotes, he remains still. He doesn't play the social media game. He's not in a race for likes, followers, or approval. And ironically, that detachment becomes the very thing that captures the attention of younger women. You see, human psychology leans toward mystery. When something or someone doesn't beg to be seen, it creates curiosity. The Sigma male's refusal to compete for validation in a world that worships attention sets him apart. His self-sufficiency, his calm, and his quiet dominance act as a gravitational pull in any environment he enters. But what younger women really sense goes beyond the surface. The Sigma's presence hints at something deeper: wisdom, emotional control, and life experience. Unlike younger men who are still proving themselves, the older Sigma has already walked through fire and come out forged. He doesn't react, he observes. He doesn't chase, he chooses. That stability, that depth becomes intoxicating to those still navigating the chaos of youthful relationships. Studies in evolutionary psychology suggest that women are often drawn to traits signaling security, leadership, and confidence, traits the older Sigma radiates effortlessly, and it's not rehearsed. He's not trying to seduce anyone. His charisma isn't scripted, it's earned. In a world addicted to stimulation, his stillness becomes a novelty. And younger women, consciously or not, begin to lean toward that quiet, unmoved presence. This video isn't about manipulation. It's not a how-to on being magnetic. It's a mirror held up to the men who live on their own terms, unaware that their authenticity is their greatest signal. Welcome to the enigma. Welcome to the mind of the older Sigma. Let's step into his world. Number 1, his emotional control. Younger women today live in a hyper-connected world where emotions swing fast and validation often hinges on the fleeting approval of social media. A single post can bring in hundreds of likes one moment and be forgotten the next. This constant loop of external affirmation creates emotional highs and lows, pushing many into a cycle of anxiety, comparison, and attention-seeking. In this whirlwind of stimulation, the Sigma male stands out, not because he shouts to be seen, but because he doesn't. His power lies in restraint. While others overreact or overshare, the Sigma observes. He doesn't rush to prove himself or chase trends. Instead, he moves through life with calculated stillness, choosing responses over reactions. For younger women who are used to emotional turbulence and the performative nature of modern relationships, this quiet confidence feels like a grounding force. It's not coldness, it's control. It's the ability to be calm when everyone else is spiraling. And that calm presence isn't just attractive, it's magnetic. It offers a sense of psychological safety, something often missing in fast-paced, attention-driven interactions. Neuroscience even backs this up. Humans are biologically drawn to those who help regulate their nervous systems. In other words, a steady presence makes us feel safer, more balanced, and more secure. The Sigma male becomes that anchor. He doesn't feed into drama or demand constant reassurance. Instead, he offers emotional consistency. That makes him not only mysterious, but also refreshing. He is the rare man who isn't trying to impress, he's simply being. And in a world saturated with noise, that silence speaks louder than any words. Younger women, often tired of superficial charm and performative masculinity, are subconsciously drawn to his authenticity. He represents what so many seek but rarely find, a man who doesn't need external validation to feel powerful. He already knows who he is, and that self-possession becomes his most attractive trait. The Sigma male isn't trying to be the hero in someone else's story. He's simply walking his own path, and that unshakable independence makes women want to walk alongside him. Stability in a storm, a lighthouse in the chaos. And while others burn bright and fast, the Sigma glows with quiet intensity, the kind that lasts. Number 2, his focused purpose. He's not drifting. He's not scrolling through life. He wakes up with a mission, not a distraction. That's the quiet power of a Sigma male. The man who operates with surgical focus while the world swims in noise. In a culture overwhelmed by dopamine hits and digital escapism, a man who doesn't chase the next trend but instead chases purpose stands out. His days aren't consumed by scrolling endlessly through other people's lives. They're built on intent, goals, and grit. And that intensity, that laser-like concentration, it doesn't just make him productive, it makes him magnetic. It creates a kind of mystery, a psychological gravity that draws others in, especially women. They can sense when a man isn't seeking external validation, and that's what makes her curious. What drives him? Where is he going? Why does he seem so complete, even in solitude? The answer lies in one core trait: internal direction. Sigma males don't wait for a green light from society, peers, or partners. They move with their own compass. Psychologically, this self-determination aligns with what researchers call an internal locus of control, the belief that one's life is shaped by personal decisions rather than outside forces. This trait has been linked to higher confidence, better emotional regulation, and long-term success. But here's the twist: he doesn't announce it. There are no motivational quotes cluttering his feed, no loud declarations of his next big move. Instead, he's quietly building, learning, training, improving. And that silence, that discipline, whispers louder than any boast ever could. Women may not consciously understand it, but they feel it. Evolutionary psychology explains that humans are drawn to those who exhibit competence, control, and purpose, traits that signal safety, stability, and strong leadership. When she sees a man who isn't thrown off by chaos, who isn't constantly reacting but rather choosing his battles and carving his own lane, she begins to admire him, not for his looks or his charm, but for the way he carries himself, as if he doesn't need to be seen to be significant. His presence doesn't beg for attention, it earns it. And that's rare, especially in a world where most people broadcast every step of their journey. He doesn't need permission to exist with purpose, and that, more than anything, creates an unspoken allure. Because in a society full of men waiting to be told what to do next, he's already moving quietly, powerfully, and unshakably towards something greater. Number 3, his silent confidence. He doesn't need to prove anything anymore, not to society, not to women, and certainly not to himself. That's because he's reached a level of self-awareness and maturity that most men never attain. He's made peace with who he is. And that peace becomes a quiet strength that doesn't need to shout for attention. His silence isn't the absence of power, it's the presence of control. In a world where people often equate loudness with confidence, his calm presence disrupts the noise. He doesn't dominate a room with volume, but with energy, grounded, unshakable, and deeply masculine. Confidence without arrogance is one of the rarest traits in a man. It speaks of experience, of wounds that have been healed, of lessons learned the hard way. This kind of man doesn't chase validation because he no longer sees it as currency. And when a younger woman senses that, when she feels the steadiness of a man who knows his worth without advertising it, she feels drawn in, often without understanding why. It's not about charm in the traditional sense. He's not trying to entertain or impress. It's about something far more magnetic, power without noise. This is the essence of what psychologists refer to as secure masculinity, a state in which a man is rooted in his identity and no longer defines himself by external success or approval. Younger women, especially those tired of boys trying to play men, instinctively recognize this energy. It's safe, but it's also exciting. It's mature, but not dull. It challenges them to rise higher. Unlike performative masculinity, which relies on showmanship, this quiet power demands nothing but commands respect. And that's why she watches him, because his silence says more than words ever could. He doesn't have to prove that he's strong. He's strong. He doesn't explain who he is. Who he is by how he carries himself and how he reacts or chooses not to. That's the kind of presence that lingers long after he's left the room. Number 4, his mastery over loneliness. He doesn't fear being alone. He chooses it. And that choice doesn't come from bitterness or social rejection, but from a deep-seated sense of self-reliance. This is where the Sigma male stands apart from the crowd. In a world that often equates value with visibility and connection with constant interaction, the Sigma male moves in quiet defiance. He's not addicted to attention. He doesn't seek validation through likes, flirty texts, or being surrounded by people. In fact, he finds clarity in solitude and strength in silence. This kind of man disrupts the normal rhythm of attraction, especially for younger women who are used to more predictable male behaviors. They're accustomed to men who rush to impress, who rely on charm as a crutch, and who fear being alone because it might suggest they're unwanted. But the Sigma isn't playing that game, he's playing his own. He walks through life with the calm confidence of someone who doesn't need to prove his worth to anyone, and that, ironically, makes him even more magnetic. Psychologically speaking, solitude is often linked to emotional maturity and self-actualization, according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The Sigma has already met his foundational needs, security, belonging, esteem, and now he seeks something more meaningful, purpose, mastery, and peace. That inner completeness radiates outward, and it doesn't go unnoticed, especially by women. To her, his silence is not emptiness, it's depth. His lack of pursuit isn't disinterest, it's discipline. And his refusal to conform to the usual dating script triggers curiosity instead of frustration. Why doesn't he chase? Why doesn't he flatter her with the usual compliments? Why does his absence feel more powerful than another man's presence? The truth is, the Sigma doesn't need to convince anyone of his value. His restraint becomes its own kind of charisma. It flips the usual dynamic. She starts to lean in. She begins to wonder what he's thinking, what his world looks like, and how she might become a part of it. It's not about mind games, it's about authenticity. And in that stillness where most people grow anxious, the Sigma male grows stronger. While others chase attention, he cultivates meaning. And that's exactly what makes him unforgettable. Number 5, his mysterious detachment. He speaks less, observes more. And when he finally says something, it cuts through the noise like a sharp blade through silk. That's the Sigma male, an enigma in a world obsessed with being seen, heard, and constantly validated. While most men try to impress women with flashy stories, exaggerated confidence, or shallow charisma, the Sigma operates differently. He doesn't talk to fill silence or perform for attention. His silence, his statement. And paradoxically, the less he shares, the more women want to know. This isn't a game of manipulation, it's the natural pull of mystery. Psychologically, humans are drawn to puzzles. We crave resolution. So when a Sigma male doesn't lay his life out like an open book, it triggers curiosity, especially in younger women who are used to dealing with men who reveal everything up front in an attempt to win affection. A Sigma's unreadable nature isn't confusion, it's a quiet challenge. He's saying without words, you don't get to figure me out that easily, and that's addictive. Neuroscience shows that anticipation triggers the brain's reward system even more than the reward itself. So when a woman interacts with a Sigma male, every glance, every word, and every subtle shift becomes a clue in a bigger mystery. She's hooked not because he's loud or flashy, but because he's different, stoic, self-contained, and unaffected by the usual games. His presence alone changes the atmosphere. It's not about dominating the room, it's about grounding it. Sigma males don't need approval to feel valid, and that independence makes them attractive in a primal, hard-to-explain way. Their vibe says, I don't need you, I choose you. For women, especially those navigating a world full of superficial attention seekers, that energy is both refreshing and captivating. It's not that they want to conquer the Sigma, it's that they want to him. And understanding someone who doesn't broadcast his emotions or intentions becomes a kind of emotional adventure. Every word he finally speaks carries meaning. Every silence feels intentional. And that's the secret. Sigma males don't try to be mysterious. They simply live with a level of depth and self-assurance, that mysterious by nature. And for a younger woman, that kind of authentic complexity is irresistible. Number 6, his unavailability. He's not always around, and that's not an accident. It's a reflection of a man who values solitude and self-mastery. He doesn't constantly text, not because he's playing hard to get, but because his life is already full, with purpose, discipline, and a relentless pursuit of his goals. Sigma males operate on a different wavelength. They don't seek validation through attention, and they certainly don't build their identity around constant communication. His absence isn't a strategy to lure her in. It's simply a byproduct of being deeply engaged with his own journey. His time is not up for grabs. It's deliberate. invested in growth, reflection, and actions that align with his internal compass. This level of independence isn't common, and it naturally creates a psychological intrigue known as the scarcity effect. People value what's rare. In a world of instant messaging and constant availability, his distance feels unfamiliar, even thrilling. It makes her pause and ask. That question alone can spark a magnetic pull, not because he's trying to impress, but because he's already impressed with himself. And this shifts the dynamic. Women, especially those used to being pursued or placed on a pedestal, start to see him differently. He's not needy, he's not chasing, he's not trying to win her over. He's simply existing in his power. And that power doesn't beg, it attracts. Psychologically, humans are drawn to what they can't immediately have. And this man, by being deeply rooted in his own path, becomes a quiet mystery. She begins to imagine what would it feel like to actually earn a place in his life, to matter to a man who doesn't rely on me for validation, comfort, or direction, but who might choose me anyway. That idea alone can be more compelling than any smooth line or grand gesture. Because when a woman senses that his world won't collapse without her, but he's still willing to make space for her, she realizes she's not being used, she's being chosen. And that's the rarest feeling of all in today's emotionally chaotic dating scene. In the end, he's not trying to prove anything to anyone. He's just living. And in doing so, he becomes exactly the kind of man people can't help but try to understand, follow, and fall for. Number 7, his boundaries are unshakable. She tests him, not because she's cruel or manipulative, but because something deep within her psyche compels her to. It's not always a conscious decision, rather it's an instinct rooted in evolutionary psychology. Women, often without realizing it, may challenge a man's emotional boundaries to gauge his strength, leadership, and self-respect. Will he bend to please? Will he lose himself to keep her? Will he chase when she pulls away? These tests aren't about drama, they're about discernment. A man who reacts impulsively by arguing, pleading, or raising his voice signals emotional instability. But the Sigma male, he doesn't take the bait. He doesn't engage in shouting matches or try to win her approval. Instead, he becomes still. He withdraws, not in weakness, but in quiet power. Because to him, disrespect isn't something to be debated, it's a boundary that speaks volumes. And his response isn't to retaliate, but to retreat with dignity. This calculated detachment is a hallmark of the Sigma male's emotional discipline. He knows his worth, and he refuses to beg for validation. Ironically, this is often the moment she feels the deepest pull toward him. His silence, his restraint, his unwavering commitment to his peace, all of it commands respect in a way words never could. It's not that she fully understands why his absence hits harder than any argument. It's that his behavior taps into something primal. She realizes she can't control him, and strangely, she admires that. Because in a world where most men crumble under pressure, he remains unshaken. And while the test may have been unconscious, the lesson he teaches her about self-worth, boundaries, and the strength of quiet confidence is unforgettable. Number 8, his rare masculine energy. Older Sigma males don't compete with younger men because they've long outgrown the need for validation. While others are still battling to prove dominance or outshine one another, the mature Sigma stands still, calm, grounded, and unaffected. His masculinity isn't a performance. It's not something he wears like a costume or announces with bravado. It's something he embodies. You can see it in how he sits with effortless poise, how he listens without interrupting, and how he remains composed when others would explode. This quiet confidence is a psychological force known as non-reactivity, often linked to higher emotional intelligence and self-awareness. These men have been through enough life storms to realize that real power isn't loud, it's silent, controlled, and deeply rooted. Younger men might flex, boast, or chase status, but the older Sigma knows his presence speaks louder than any words. Women notice it, not because he's flaunting anything, but because his energy fills the room without him trying. It's called embodied presence, and it's magnetic. This is what makes the older Sigma stand out. Not his attempts to dominate, but his ability to be fully himself without apology or need for applause. That is the kind of power that can't be faked. The truth is, he's not trying to attract anyone. He's building his legacy. And strangely enough, that's exactly what makes him irresistible. The older Sigma male lives with intention, directing his energy toward things that compound over time: his health, his finances, his knowledge, and his inner peace. In a world addicted to instant gratification, his discipline is a quiet rebellion. He doesn't crave the spotlight. He doesn't chase social validation or temporary flings. Instead, he's laying bricks for a future only a few can envision. And that's where the paradox begins. He's emotionally unavailable, yet endlessly desired. Detached, yet unforgettable. He doesn't play games to be mysterious. His mystery is simply the byproduct of living beyond the noise. Research in evolutionary psychology even shows that traits like autonomy, self-sufficiency, and purpose-driven living are highly attractive, especially to women who seek emotional depth and stability. He's not out there adapting to what's trending. He's refining what's timeless, his values, his discipline, and his calm presence. So when younger women enter his orbit, it's not because he chased them. It's because they recognize something rare, something stable, something magnetic. He's not part of their world. They're stepping into his. Stay focused, stay evolving, stay Sigma. He walks in, says nothing, and yet every head turns, not because he tries, because he doesn't. What women notice about Sigma males isn't loud or obvious. It's not the flash of a designer watch or the volume of his voice. It's something deeper, intangible, but unmistakable. This isn't about conventional attraction. It's not about the guy with the biggest muscles or the smoothest pickup lines. It's about a kind of presence that whispers instead of shouts. Sigma males exude a raw, grounded energy, what psychologists might call nonverbal dominance. Research into social dynamics shows that confident body language, unbroken eye contact, and relaxed posture often communicate higher status more effectively than words ever could. But for Sigma males, it goes even further. Their confidence isn't performative, it's internalized. They don't need validation, and that lack of need becomes magnetic. Women sense it immediately, not with their logic, but with their instincts. Evolutionary psychology suggests that women are biologically wired to detect traits associated with strength, independence, and self-sufficiency, especially in environments where resources and protection once meant survival. The Sigma male embodies that archetype. He's not interested in the social games, but paradoxically, that makes him the most intriguing player on the board. His silence speaks volumes. His stillness holds weight, and when he walks into a room, he carries the kind of presence that feels like a storm gathering on the horizon, calm, yet impossible to ignore. This is why women notice him, not for how he dresses, talks, or flirts, but for how he doesn't. He doesn't chase, he doesn't impress, he just... And in a world full of noise, that rare silence, the confident kind, becomes deafening. So today, as we decode this magnetic aura, we're diving into the psychology behind the Sigma mystique, the primal cues that set him apart, and the silent power that captures attention without ever asking for it. Number one, his eyes don't linger. He makes eye contact but doesn't devour. He sees you but he doesn't need you. That controlled gaze speaks volumes. It's not just a stare, it's a psychological statement. In a world where many men use eye contact as a display of dominance or a tool for seduction, the Sigma male engages differently. His gaze isn't desperate or predatory, it's discerning, composed, and self-contained. Studies in psychology suggest that prolonged eye contact can trigger the brain's social and emotional circuits, sometimes increasing perceived attraction or tension. But when the Sigma male locks eyes with someone, he doesn't do it to impress or manipulate. He does it to understand. His eyes don't roam hungrily, they evaluate. That's what makes it powerful. His presence says, I'm here. I'm aware, but I don't seek validation. This is intimidating to some and magnetic to others. It challenges expectations in a society where most people are used to overt interest or obvious emotional cues. The Sigma male's control over his gaze is an extension of his autonomy. He doesn't look at you to make you feel wanted. He looks at you to see who you really are. And if you're used to attention that feels needy or exaggerated, his calm detachment might feel unsettling. But that's the beauty of it. You're not being consumed by his attention, you're being observed quietly, intentionally, without pressure. That kind of restraint is rare. Evolutionary psychology tells us that eye contact evolved as a tool for bonding and cooperation, but also for threat detection and status negotiation. The Sigma male's gaze bypasses those primal games. He's not scanning for social rank or approval. He already knows who he is. That's why his gaze doesn't linger to conquer. It simply lands, assesses, and moves on if needed. And if it stays, it's because he chooses, not because he needs. This makes his eye contact both compelling and confusing. People can feel seen without being objectified. They can feel acknowledged without being pursued. And that paradox is what makes his presence unforgettable. In a culture overloaded with performative confidence and artificial charm, the Sigma male's steady eye contact is an act of rebellion. It says, "I'm not here to win you over, I'm here to be real." That subtle intensity carries more weight than any flashy smile or sweet talk ever could. It's not loud, but it's loud enough to change the whole tone of a room. Number two, his posture is still, not loud. He doesn't puff his chest or swing his arms to be noticed. His posture says, "I'm present, I'm enough." And that's exactly what sets him apart. In a world obsessed with noise, bravado, and performance, the Sigma male's quiet confidence is a rare currency. His body language is intentional, never excessive, never showy, but always grounded. It's a powerful form of nonverbal communication, rooted in self-awareness and emotional intelligence. While others may overcompensate with exaggerated gestures or artificial charisma, the Sigma understands that true presence doesn't need to be advertised. Scientific studies on posture and psychology reveal that those who maintain upright yet relaxed postures are perceived as more trustworthy and competent. The Sigma uses this to his advantage, not to manipulate, but to reflect an inner truth. He's not trying to prove anything to anyone because his self-worth isn't measured by external validation. Instead, it radiates from within. You won't catch him adjusting his behavior for attention or approval. He walks into a room not to dominate it, but to simply be part of it with complete self-possession. That subtle energy commands more respect than shouting ever could. Think of the way lions move, graceful, deliberate, never frantic. That's the essence of Sigma body language. He listens more than he speaks, observes more than he reacts. And when he does speak or move, it's with precision and purpose. Women especially notice this. Numerous studies in evolutionary psychology suggest that calm confidence signals high status and emotional stability, traits deeply attractive on a subconscious level. But here's the twist. The Sigma doesn't project this to attract anyone. It just happens as a natural consequence of his authenticity. That's what makes his presence magnetic. It's not about puffing his chest, it's about aligning his body, mind, and spirit in quiet harmony. He's not trying to be the loudest in the room, he's trying to be the most centered. That's not weakness, it's strength refined. In a world constantly trying to prove itself, he remains untouched by the scramble. His stillness speaks volumes. He doesn't need to raise his voice or raise his chin. His presence, his energy, his calm posture, they do all the talking. And somehow, without even trying, everyone notices. Number three, his phone stays in his pocket. He isn't addicted to distraction. When he's out, he's fully out, not chasing digital attention. That's one of the rarest traits in today's hyper-connected world. In an era where most people can't go 5 minutes without checking their phones, scrolling endlessly, or chasing likes and views for validation, the man who resists this compulsion stands out like a silent mountain in the middle of chaos. He's not glued to a screen while pretending to be present. When he steps outside, whether into a forest trail, a quiet cafe, or even a crowded city, he immerses himself in the environment, not in a digital feed. Psychologists have warned for years that our brains are becoming rewired by constant exposure to dopamine-triggering apps. Every ping, every notification, every new scroll delivers a small hit of pleasure, similar to what happens with gambling or even certain drugs. This creates a feedback loop that many people find hard to escape, but not him. He values presence over performance and stillness over stimulation. This isn't just preference, it's discipline. Neuroscience tells us that attention is one of our brain's most limited resources, and it guards it like a king protects a throne. He chooses intentional living over reactive existence. While others are chasing viral moments, he's building quiet momentum in the real world, learning, observing, and evolving. His ability to delay gratification and to resist the easy thrill of distraction makes him formidable. And here's the kicker. When he speaks or shares something, it hits harder. Why? Because it wasn't diluted by noise. It came from focus, clarity, and real thought. It's no coincidence that some of the most successful and respected figures in history, Einstein, Marcus Aurelius, and Nikola Tesla, prized solitude and focused attention. They understood what modern research now confirms. Uninterrupted deep work leads to brilliance. So when this man chooses to disconnect from the artificial urgency of the digital world, He's not being antisocial. He's reclaiming his time, his mind, and his soul. He's present in a way that makes people uncomfortable because they're reminded of how absent they are. While others fear boredom, he sees it as a doorway to insight. While others distract themselves into mediocrity, he centers himself into excellence. That's not just refreshing, it's revolutionary. Number 4, he listens without waiting to speak. Rare, powerful. He listens not to reply, but to understand or to decide if it's even worth replying. That's the silent strength of the Sigma male. In a world that rewards noise and speed, Sigma men move with quiet calculation. Their listening isn't passive, it's an art form. While most people engage in conversations as a performance, eager to speak, to impress, to dominate, Sigma males approach dialogue as an opportunity to gather data, to observe and to discern. Their silence isn't awkward, it's intentional. Psychology calls this a skill that's often taught in therapy rooms and leadership seminars, but for the Sigma male, it's instinctual. He absorbs not just words, but also tone, body language, hesitations, and contradictions. He knows that people often reveal more through what they say. And while others interrupt to make a point or prove something, the Sigma stays still, calculating whether the exchange even deserves his energy. You see, Sigmas don't chase validation through conversation. They're not concerned with being liked or accepted in social groups. That's what makes them unpredictable and magnetic. When they do speak, people listen because their words are rare, deliberate, and often razor sharp. There's a psychological phenomenon known as the quiet power effect. When someone who rarely speaks finally does, their voice carries more weight. Sigma males embody this. They have trained themselves to be comfortable in silence, and that discomfort you feel when they pause, that's where their dominance lies. Their silence becomes a mirror, forcing others to confront their own insecurity. And when the Sigma respond, it's not to argue, it's to clarify truth. He doesn't get pulled into debates or emotional traps because he's already listened long enough to see the game being played. This makes him a master in negotiation, leadership, and interpersonal strategy. In a time where everyone wants to be heard, the Sigma man understands the power of speaking unless it matters. He filters nonsense from substance, vanity from vulnerability, and noise from truth. Listening, for him, isn't about approval or politeness, it's about discernment. He's not here to fill silence, he's here to learn from it, rule through it, and when necessary, speak through it. That's what makes him rare. That's what makes him powerful. Number 5, he smiles with restraint, not fake charm, no excessive grinning, just calm recognition, a subtle nod. That's his language. In a world that celebrates loud personalities and flamboyant entrances, the Sigma male remains quietly distinct. He doesn't rely on performative friendliness to make an impression. He understands something that many miss. True power doesn't need to be broadcast. It's felt. When he enters a room, he doesn't need to plaster on a smile or throw around forced compliments. Instead, he offers presence. His body language speaks volumes, a calm gaze, a composed posture, and at most a slight nod that acknowledges others without surrendering his personal space. This isn't rudeness, it's intentional energy conservation. Psychologically, subtle, controlled expressions like the nod are associated with self-confidence and inner calm, traits that naturally draw people in without him having to say a word. Evolutionary biology even supports this. In ancient tribal settings, dominant males didn't have to assert dominance with over-the-top behavior. The truly respected men were those who could control their emotions and reactions, commanding attention through quiet certainty. That subtle nod, it's not just a greeting, it's a code. It says, I see you, but I'm not trying to impress you. It's a filtered form of communication, stripped of social fluff. The Sigma male knows that charisma without authenticity is manipulation, and he wants no part of that. So he speaks in gestures that align with his nature. His eye contact isn't prolonged or challenging, it's respectful and grounded. His smile, when it appears, is rare and real. That's why it feels powerful. The absence of forced charm makes his interactions feel like quiet respect, not performance. And this drives people crazy in the best way. It disarms them. They're used to peacocks in suits and loud laughter trying to win approval. But with him, there's no performance, just presence. This doesn't mean he's cold or arrogant. In fact, studies on introverted yet emotionally intelligent men suggest they often build deeper trust over time because their interactions feel more genuine. So, when a Sigma male gives you that calm recognition, don't misread the simplicity. That subtle nod is a signal of control, confidence, and peace, a rare trifecta in today's overstimulated world. And in that moment you understand something. Sometimes silence and sincerity are more powerful than 1,000 empty words. Number 6. He doesn't fidget, no restless movements, no nervous gestures. His stillness reveals control, and control attracts. In a world that's constantly buzzing with noise, distractions, and people fighting to be noticed, the Sigma male's stillness stands out like a mountain in the middle of a storm. He doesn't fidget or pace, nor does he feel the need to fill silence with small talk or exaggerated gestures. Instead, he remains composed, calm, calculated, and deeply aware of his surroundings. This level of self-control isn't an accident. It's a cultivated mindset that stems from inner confidence, emotional discipline, and high self-awareness. Psychology tells us that people unconsciously associate physical stillness with authority and competence. Think of how a lion doesn't need to roar to prove its power. It simply watches, waits, and moves only when necessary. That's the Sigma male. His body language is minimal but intentional. He doesn't cross his arms out of insecurity or shift his weight nervously. He simply occupies space with quiet dominance. This kind of presence is magnetic because it signals mastery of the self, a rare trait in today's hyperreactive world. Research in nonverbal communication reveals that people who exhibit fewer anxious behaviors are often perceived as more trustworthy, intelligent, and powerful. The Sigma male, by exuding calm and being unbothered by social expectations, taps directly into this psychological effect. He's not performing for attention, and that's precisely why he draws it. People are intrigued by those who don't seek validation, who are perfectly fine being silent in a world addicted to noise. His lack of visible tension gives off a mysterious aura. Women interpret it as confidence and stability. Men see it as strength and composure. This is not about being emotionless. It's about emotional control. It's about understanding that the loudest one in the room is often the weakest, and that true power flows silently. The Sigma male doesn't need to posture because his stillness does the talking. Every deliberate breath, every unhurried motion communicates, I am in control of myself, and I don't need to control anyone else to prove it. That kind of control is rare, and rarity, as always, is irresistible. Number 7. His style is clean but understated. No loud brands or trends, neutral colors, minimalist accessories. Function first, then form. That's how you know you're in the presence of a Sigma male. His appearance doesn't scream for attention, it whispers confidence. While most people dress to impress others, the Sigma dresses to impress only himself. His wardrobe is intentional, not performative. He doesn't need oversized logos or flashy designer tags to validate his worth. Instead, he gravitates toward timeless pieces that prioritize utility and comfort without sacrificing style. Think well-fitted jeans, classic plain tees, boots that can take a beating, and jackets that serve in both city streets and wilderness trails. There's an almost military precision to how he chooses what to wear. Every item has a purpose, and that purpose always aligns with his personal philosophy. Simplicity equals strength. In a world obsessed with the next fashion wave, the Sigma remains unmoved. His minimalist fashion choices reflect his inner values: clarity, efficiency, and self-reliance. And this isn't just preference, it's rooted in psychology. Studies have shown that men who wear neutral and functional clothing are often perceived as more competent and trustworthy. The Sigma knows this intuitively. He doesn't dress for the group, he dresses for the mission. His style says, I'm not here to blend in, but I'm not here to stand out either. I'm here to move forward. Even his accessories follow suit: a matte black watch, a worn-in leather wallet, a canvas backpack with just the essentials. Each item is a tool, not an ornament. It's not about trends, it's about timelessness. The Sigma male understands that the loudest person in the room is often the most insecure. So while others chase validation through outward displays, he invests in internal growth. His style is a reflection of that silent evolution. So the next time you see someone who seems understated but unshakably composed, who wears purpose like armor and simplicity like a crown, know that you're not just looking at his clothes, you're reading a code, a way of life that values essence over appearance. That's the Sigma signal: quiet on the outside, unwavering on the inside. Not flashy, but unforgettable. Number 8. He disappears after making an impression. Just when curiosity peaks, he vanishes, not to play games, but because he has other missions, and mystery lingers longer than presence. This behavior, often misunderstood, is deeply rooted in the psychology of the Sigma male archetype. Unlike extroverted types who thrive on attention and affirmation, Sigma males are introspective strategists who operate on a different frequency. Their sudden disappearance is not manipulation, it's a recalibration. Driven by purpose and independence, Sigma males don't linger where their presence isn't necessary or valued. In fact, psychological studies show that mystery and unpredictability increase attraction and intrigue, something known as the scarcity principle in behavioral science. The less someone is available, the more valuable their presence seems. This is not by design, but by default. Sigma males are naturally wired to detach from noise, chase solitude, and pursue missions others rarely see. They know that overstaying dulls impact. Like a comet streaking the sky, it's not the duration that captivates, it's the rarity. And so he leaves before the world gets too familiar with his light. In his silence, questions echo. In his absence, his presence magnifies. Not everyone will understand it, but that's exactly the point. They won't admit it. In fact, many might not even realize why. But the moment a Sigma male walks into a room, something shifts. It's not about flashy clothes, loud entrances, or smooth talk. It's the silence that follows him like a shadow. In a society obsessed with noise and validation, the Sigma's quiet confidence disrupts the norm. Studies in behavioral psychology suggest that individuals who exhibit calm detachment and high self-assurance often project the strongest presence without saying a word. This magnetic stillness taps into a primal intrigue. Women notice not because he tries, but because he doesn't have to.